Yes, hello again. Welcome to the second part of our discussion of the DepEd Order number 31 series of 2020. So let us go to the content of the DepEd Order number 31 series of 2020. So these are the basic principles of assessment writing. So assessment should be holistic and authentic in capturing the attainment of the most essential learning competences. So our MELCs is the sole basis of all our assessment today. Okay, next, assessment is integral for understanding student learning and development. So we can never take away assessment because this is one way of knowing whether our learners learned something from what they are studying, whether it's a face-to-face situation or a distance learning situation. Next, a variety of assessment strategies is necessary, with formative assessment taking priority to inform teaching and promote growth and mastery. So our assessment, the result of our assessment speaks a lot about the learning of our students and also the way we teach as teachers. Okay, assessment and feedback should be a shared responsibility among teachers, learners, and their families, especially nowadays because of our situation. So we really have to work hand in hand together with the learning facilitators at home, the parents, or the guardians. So it is all our responsibility. Next, assessment and grading should have a positive impact on learning. So learners should not be traumatized by the assessment. It should have a positive impact, okay, especially on our learners. Okay, so the desired outcome of the assessment being conducted is to ensure that all learners are fairly assessed and graded in the continuation of education during this health crisis, especially that as teachers we really have to think of the ways, the most effective way on how to assess our learners, especially with the situation that we have right now. We have to make sure that they are fairly assessed, okay, and that everyone has an access to the method of assessment that we choose. And also to emphasize that learning standards shall be attained with the provision of reasonable leniency and considerations for possible difficulties met by the learner. Okay, so always keep in mind that we have what we call the content standard, we have the performance standard, and we also have the MELCs. Okay, and now let us go back to the basic terms that we have for this topic. So first, we have the classroom assessment. This is an ongoing process of identifying, gathering, organizing, and interpreting quantitative and qualitative information about what learners know and can do. So when we say formative assessment, this process involves teachers using evidence about what learners know and can do to improve their teaching. This process, through the teacher's immediate feedback, enables students to take responsibility for their own learning and identify areas where they do well and where they need help. So these days, our formative assessment comes in the form of the module. So all the activities embedded in the module are called formative assessment, and we as teachers, we give immediate feedback after the learners return their answer sheets, and that is why we have the answer key at the end of the module for them to be able to self-check their answers and keep track of their learning. Next, we have the summative assessment. This is an assessment that is usually administered toward the end of a learning period to measure the extent to which the learners have mastered the essential learning competencies, the results of which are recorded and are used to report the learner's achievement. So these summative assessments cannot be found in our module. So we teachers have to create another set of assessment, which is called the summative assessment, which will be given to our learners in cooperation with the parents or the guardians. So these are the result of this are recorded and computed and will be part of their final rating or grade. So we also have the grading, which is the way of reporting assessment data by assigning a value to the results as a record of students' ability, achievement, or progress. Okay, so how do we plan our assessment? Or how do we plan the conduct of our assessment? First, we have to prepare, and part of the preparation is making sure that our assessment or the questions that are included in our assessment tool are aligned with the MELCs. Okay, they are reliable, valid, and transparent. They are fair, inclusive, and equitable. They are practical and manageable for both us, the teachers, and our learners. Give learners a range of ways to demonstrate their learning, meaning we give varied type of questions, and also provide timely and accurate information as basis for feedback. Okay, so take note that in planning our assessment, we have to design assessments bearing the assumption that the learners will asynchronously take them, and every one of them should have an open access to various sources for our assessment to be fair to everybody. Okay, in deciding on which assessment and method to use, consider the following. What is the purpose of the assessment? Okay, why do we give this assessment? Okay, what will be assessed? Okay, what competency, what content standard, or what performance standard are we measuring? Okay, which method would best allow learners to demonstrate what they have learned considering their learning modality? So carefully choose the method to use in assessing particular competency. Okay, which method would make it easy to gather evidence of learners' progress over time? And will the assessment be taken at the same time, or will it be submitted within a specific period? It should be clear to both the learners and the guardians or the parents who are learning facilitators at home. How will class size affect the way the assessments will be conducted? How many students do we have in a particular class? And how will it affect the conduct of our assessment? And finally, how can technology help? Especially in this time of pandemic, we are encouraged to maximize the use of technology. Okay, also in conducting the remote assessment, especially that in our school we are utilizing the distance learning by using modules. So we are going to conduct remote assessment. So make sure that in communicating the assessment task, explain the following details to the learning facilitators at home who will help us teachers in conducting the assessment to our learners. Okay, first, explain the objectives of the assessment task. Second, what is the role of the learner, and what is the role of the parents or the guardians in the conduct of the assessment. Okay, and then what are the procedures to be followed, and what is the expected timeline in conducting the assessment or taking the assessment at home. And then we have present and explain the standards or the rubrics to be used in rating the assessment. Okay, now we have two components of rating for this time of pandemic. First, we have the summative assessments, which will continue in the form of written works and performance tasks. Okay, so these are graded, as we have said, the summative assessment. For the written works, it shall be administered to assess essential knowledge and understanding through quizzes and long or unit tests or chapter tests. Okay, however, the items or the questions in the written works should still be distributed across the cognitive process dimensions using a combination of selected response and constructed response formats so that all are adequately covered. So what is that cognitive process dimension? So that is the Bloom's taxonomy. So just like what we do with the table of specification when we craft our quarterly assessment, so we will do the same in crafting our summative assessment. So the questions should be distributed to the cognitive process or the Bloom's taxonomy. So we have there remembering, make sure we have questions for remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So also we have mentioned of the selected response versus the constructed response. So in selected response items, students choose a response by just provided by the teacher or test developer rather than constructing one in their own words or by their own actions. So selected response items do not require the students to recall information but only to recognize the correct answer. Example of those are multiple choice questions, true or false, or the matching type. Meanwhile, in constructed response, they are asked to write and construct their own answer, like the short answer, the essay. And both of them have advantages and disadvantages. So we have to weigh which of the two types of exams or assessment will work best for us and our learners, especially in conducting remote assessment. Okay, for the performance task, these are the assessment tasks that allow learners to show what they know and are capable to do in diverse ways. They may create or innovate products or do performance-based tasks, including skill demonstrations, group presentations, oral work, multimedia presentations, and research projects. So it is important to note that written outputs may also be considered as performance tasks. Okay, this is the same with what we are following in DepEd Order number 18, series of 2015. So we can find that on page 7 to 8 of that DepEd Order. Okay, some of the written outputs may also be considered as performance tasks based on the objectives of the outputs. Okay, for language, we have the following examples of written works. These are taken from the DepEd Order number 18, series of 2015. So we have book or article reviews, essays, journals, letter writing, reaction, reflection papers, and reports. For the products, we have the campaigns, case studies, colleges, compositions, literary analysis, multimedia productions, portfolios, research projects, story poem writing. And also, we can have interviews, multimedia presentations, or project making for performance task. Okay, so in designing the performance task, we have to provide opportunities for learners to apply what they are learning to real-life situations. So let us always consider the following. Provide clear directions and appropriate scoring tools like checklists, rubrics, rating scale. And also, we can always integrate 2 or more competencies within or across subject area to maximize our time. Also, give flexibility in the accomplishment of the performance task to consider time and resources available to them. Exercise professional judgment. Provide enough opportunities for learners to practice and redo their work whenever necessary to reach their learning targets with the least amount of pressure. And so for the meantime, we'll end here. See you on the third part of our 3 series discussion of DepEd Order number 31 series of 2020.